Welcome, football fans, but most importantly, USFL fans, to episode 27 of USFLA. Boys, how are we doing? 27 episodes in, and this is the first time that we have had our main man, Alex, who is now the co-host of our best and most viewed show, Hammer Time. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm doing great, Ace. Thanks for having me on the show.
Man, thanks for coming on. I absolutely love it. Webb, how are you doing after you just had the worst fantasy draft I've ever seen in my life?
We'll see. I got you the week that you're getting married, so I'll get
one.
that dub. I'll beat your brother the first week. I'm ready to go. Let's go.
Coming after them Nargang boys. I appreciate it. And then, as always, we have our wonderful producer, my mother-in-law, KB. She's chilling over there. She's muted right now because she likes to swear at us during the show. But what are we talking about today, boys?
28 through 22, right? We're continuing that train.
Sir, yes, sir. 28 through 22. If you go watch our fantasy draft, Boogie Roberts, he was in our draft. He's in our league, actually. He was drafting, but he did not have time. He could not come on for USFL 50 for USFLA today. But we are doing the countdown. We're talking about the players who were picked to be number 28 through number 22 on the USFL 50, which, if this is the first time you've ever watched, you watch the NFL, you've seen the NFL Top 100 that they do every offseason. It's the top 100 players voted by the players and coaches. Well, we do something very similar with the USFL, where we have people who cover the USFL in the media. We have general managers. We have coaches, assistant head coaches. We have players. Everybody votes, and we put together a cumulative list of the top 50 players from the USFL season. So, without further ado, who do we have coming in at number 28? It is Mr. Vito Victor, Darius Victor, the reigning offensive player of the year from season 1. He did not get it this year because obviously my guy, Mark Thompson over on the Gamblers, got it this year because he broke the touchdown record and is on the board against people who played like 18 games. But Darius Victor, what is Todd Haley calls him a bowling ball of butcher knives. Isn't that what he calls him? So, guys, what do you think of this pick? Do you think he's at the right spot? Do you think he should be higher, lower? Go for it.
Alex, you can go first. You're our guest.
Since I'm the guest now, I appreciate that, Webb. His production was very similar to last year when you look at total yards. He was third in rushing. One of the things that I thought, thick thighs save lives. And when you see him in person, he is a very tough guy to bring down. His yards after contact was best in the league, like 4.8 yards after contact. So, suddenly, that truly stood out. He had a PFF of 79.5. Had fewer TDs this year than last year. And I think also he may have gotten dinged a bit because the Generals didn't have the same season this year that they had last year as far as wins and a playoff run. But, I don't think you can really argue with where he is on the list. And as you guys are talking, I'll tell you where I had him on my list.
Oh, dang. I don't even know where I had him on my list.
I don't know where I had him.
28th.
Oh, you pegged him. Spot on.
28.
Wow. You put him exactly where he is? That's
sorry, 27. He's 27.
Okay. So, we'll give a margin of error there. 27. I don't even know. If I look at my list, I don't even know.
My thing is, you said that his production was similar to last year. That just proves winning matters, right?
Yep.
If he's producing the same exact and the team's worse, he's actually doing a bigger lion's share of the
He's
offense.
doing more.
He had fewer carries.
With a quarterback with fewer carries?
Fewer carries by higher average per rush. So he was 5.51 yards per carry, and that's with the leading that's dynamite, and with the leading offensive rushing offense in the USFL.
Yeah. Hey, I
had him at 16.
Quarterback.
I had him at 16 because I agree with you that he was doing a bigger line share.
Well, I will tell you there were some people that had him in the 40s, which I thought was criminal. But you saw what happened to Reggie Corbin. I think it becomes a victim of just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yeah,
it's the curse of competency.
I know it's only 2 years. I know it's only 2 years, so really, it's not like they've done it for a 10-year career and you just like Mike Trout. You know what I mean? Mike Trout produced for so many years for the Angels. But
I got to stop you.
What?
We got a man here. Hello, Boogie. Oh, you were getting on a roll, but I had to stop you, man. Oh, man. Boogie, welcome to the show, brother.
It's a perfect one to bring on Boog. Boog, 28, Vito Victor, number 28 overall in the league. What's your take?
Why is
Vito, the
Right.
muscle hamster himself.
The muscle
I know he'll probably be disappointed in that just because of the year he had in year one, and he'll be the first to tell you because he's hard on himself that he kind of didn't have the same year that he had the first year in the sense of taking care of the football. You know, there was a stretch of games where he had a few costly fumbles. You know, that's uncharacteristic of him. So, and that was kind of their season as a whole, as generals. You know, they weren't the same team. Just things that happened in year two didn't happen in year one. And his production, you know, in terms of taking care of the football was one of them. So I could see why he slipped a little bit, but he's still definitely one of the top running backs in the USFL. And I'm sure he's on the mission to redeem himself. You know, unfortunately, a lot of guys are going to get ran over because of it. He's angry. But yeah.
Oh boy.
to the
He sent
left,
back
to the left,
quick.
right?
He sent
What'd
back
you
very
say?
quick.
To the left, to the left. Everything in the box to the left.
Everything he owns in the box to the left. You know, I had to send my guy packing. You know, we share the same hub. It was getting kind of crowded in there. You know, we needed extra space, so he had to clear out his locker, and it was our job to help them do so.
That's a nice hub. I like that.
Shout out
hub
my
a lot.
guy. I love Vito, man, and all my general buddies. It's
Vito's
all
fantastic.
fun and games. Yeah.
Vito's a great guy. I think it's a lot of it's both what Webb and Alex said, and I mean Boogie's gonna nail it because he was there, he saw it all firsthand. But when it comes to Alex, you said he had less rushing touchdowns this year. He had 4 on the season. Last year he had 3 in a game.
Okay.
You know, he had more yards per carry, less carries. He still had a very productive season. He had the costly fumbles that Boogie's talking about. And then Webb said the curse of competency. So it's if you're not going to progress, so you're the offensive player of the year, you take a step back, you have a couple fumbles that inevitably probably lost them at least one of those games, and then less touchdowns. And if the team as a whole takes a step back, you're talking about a team that a lot of people considered second best in the league last year, even after the championship. And to go to the worst team in the league, you know, we saw Case Cookus, we saw Reggie Corbin. These guys fell because they did just as well, where they basically were exactly where they were in stats last year. But because their teams didn't do as well, they fell back. And that's tough. But I like him here. I had Vito at 16 on my list, but I like him at 28. I think it's still respectable. You know, he can't be mad at that number with how the team did. You know, he's going to beat himself up because he's that kind of competitor. I think 28 is a good number, and I think he'll probably take it. So I like it. But we're staying in the same team, different position. We're moving to number 27. Coming in at number 27, we have Jake Lucina. And I'm glad, so glad that we have Boogie in here on this episode because offensive linemen are incredibly hard to talk about because there's no stats. You literally have to have been watching the offensive line, which if we're talking about the Gamblers, I could tell you about their offensive line. But when it comes to other teams, it's a lot harder to talk about. So I want to start with Boogie on this one. Boogie, Jake Lucina, center for the New Jersey Generals. What do you think of the guy? Does he deserve to be number 27? Should he be higher? Should he be lower? And just so you know, when we say higher, we mean closer to 1.
Can I start off by, I don't know if you guys can give this information, how many more offensive linemen are ranked above him without giving names?
Give me 1 second.
2?
I will let you know. Yeah, it's 1 or 2.
1 or 2, at most 2.
So we'll just say, for the sake of he's the top 3 on the list. We'll just say
He should
say that. Or top 4. I'll just say top 4. And I'm fine with that. You know, I get to go against him twice a year. Jake, he's the leader of that, you know, offensive line. They go as he goes. You know, he's up there making checks and calls and things like that. And he's very strong. You know, he's very powerful. Great feet. You really have to study him and go into the game knowing you're going to need more than one move to beat him consistently. And when I'm watching the O-lineman, if I know I'm going to have to work extra hard and use different moves to beat a guy, you know, he's one of those higher echelon guys. And I'll say that about Jake.
There's only one offensive lineman in front of him, actually.
Okay. Well, yeah.
I think I know who it is too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, Jake's at a perfect spot. You know, he had a great year. I know a lot of other people around him kind of had a dip in production, but I think Jake had an amazing year. You know, and it's tough. He's a center. It was a revolving door at quarterback in New Jersey, and that's tough on the center because every quarterback likes the ball different ways. You know, they're different heights and things like this. For him to adapt and still having a great year with all that stuff happening, you know, hats off to him.
Oh, that is such a good point. that I don't even know if we would have made if Boogie wasn't here. I don't even think about how, man, it's crazy. Especially, people start watching shows like Hard Knocks, watching shows like United by Football, these things that are becoming more prevalent as, technology and people want more insider information. There was a whole point with Aaron Rodgers in Hard Knocks where he was yelling at the center because of how the snaps were coming. He was like, don't spin it. I don't want it to spin. He's like, this one was a little low. So the fact that he had 3 different quarterbacks that he's, hiking to all season, sometimes multiple in a game, he's changing the height, he's changing the spin, he's trying to do it how they like it. That's a great point. And that makes a lot of sense for being the second best offensive lineman on the list. And wow, the next one, he's up there. He's number 15. That's what I'll give you. But the next one's number 15. So high praise for Jake Lucino.
Yeah, I had him right with Cole Schneider. They were a little bit lower on the list at I had him in the mid 30s, but it's funny. I had 2 centers like right next to each other.
Ooh, I'm going to out myself. I didn't have Jake Lucino on my list.
Well, that's an arrogant thing. Your brother didn't vote for an offensive lineman the entire time, which is criminal.
You didn't vote for a kicker. You have Chris Blewett.
Because
thank you.
I love kickers. They're great. But when I'm ranking the top 50 players, I just have a tough time, especially when you got offensive linemen. You got, like, if you want to, I know Boogie's on here, but you want to talk about D tackles, you could have clearly put 6 or 7 on this list.
You could.
And I left off Chris Blewett and Aubrey because of it. I chose the line over that. I'm sorry. I know Boogie's on here. I'm not
starting in the NFL.
Yeah. All right.
All right.
No, I watch every episode, so I've seen them give you crap about the kicker situation. So
like, I love kickers. I just had Mango and Blewett on. Like, I love kickers. Mark Holt's one of my favorite guys in the league. Special teams are important. I get it. But when I'm ranking my top 50, if I'm building a team, I'm trying to get that depth before I worry about the kicker. And I know the kicker can decide a game like against the gamblers and the maulers. I know they can decide a game, but guess what? You're not getting to that point if your offensive line can't protect or your defense is getting to the quarterback. So if
you're a coach, you're Jeff Fisher. I get it. It's okay. No worries.
Hey, one thing on Lucino before we move on, though. Intrigued, he was an Augustana College guy. So it's funny when you see the Indiana, University of Pennsylvania, Augustana College. I love seeing and again, it speaks to what the league is. It's given guys. What's that?
There's 2 Augustanas. Which one is he from?
This is the Augustana Division II, Augustana College in Ohio.
Okay. There's also one in
Minnesota.
Rock Island.
No, he's in Minnesota.
It is Minnesota. Okay, yes.
I'm sorry, Minnesota. And he was also the Remington Award winner, best center in the country, 2019. I didn't know that either, but that's pretty big time. He's pretty big time talent. So, but I like these again. The flavor of the league when you see these guys from like Indiana, University of Pennsylvania, Darius is from Towson. You see these 1AA Division II guys. Wonderful opportunity the USFL is providing these guys to get exposure. So I think Jake's good at 27.
The reason I bring up Augustana College is that there is another one in Rock Island, Illinois, one of the Quad Cities. And that is where my parents went to college and where my parents met. And one of the big reasons of why I exist today.
Why you exist.
So, there you go. But someone else who exists, that's a segue,
Isn't that Will Miles' hometown too?
Yes. Is he from Rock Island or is he from?
Yeah, I think he's Rock Island.
He's from Rock Island. Dude, that was so cool. Talking to him at their practice, Boogie obviously knows him. Talking to Will Miles, I asked him, about his favorite pizza in the Quad Cities, all that stuff. It was cool talking to someone who knew about that because my mother-in-law, KB, is literally from Illinois, and she didn't even know about the Quad Cities, which are a part of Illinois. So it was nice to talk to someone who knew that stuff.
Hey, can I throw one last thing in too? I just looked at this. I made a note to myself. How the hell did the Journals only win 3 games? They averaged 5.6 yards a carry.
Quarterback play.
Well, yeah, and turning the ball over. But think about that. 5.6 yards a carry running the ball.
They played the Maulers week 10.
Well, amen to that.
That's true. They had no chance going into that game. I didn't feel anything for them. I was like, that's not happening.
You guys realize how whopping that number is? Almost 6 yards.
Yeah. Oh, no. They honestly, and I think their defense their defense is great, but you got to think about Chris Orr, Shalom Luwani. These are 2 guys who are the leaders of their defense, who lead the team in tackling, and they're both out for 3+ weeks. Yeah. Then you have quarterback play. Or only he missed at least 2, and I know
he played 9 games.
Okay.
Or
He might have been banged up.
Yeah, and then quarterback plays super shoddy. Think about it. They started Kyle Lauletta for like 3 games. So
I'm with you.
That's the big reason.
Yeah.
But coming in, number 26, a man whose name I mispronounced when I first read it, Dondre Tillman, defensive tackle, the Birmingham Stallions, back-to-back champion, Dondre Tillman. So he shares the defensive line. Boogie, what do you think of this guy?
I like him because of his versatility. He's a guy. I feel like in my position, there's always guys you turn on when you're facing an offensive lineman. Okay, let me go see how he did against them, just so you know. Yeah, definitely. If you're really taking your craft serious and want to be great, that's what I do. I go out, and if we're playing the Stars, I'll go watch how Toby played against him. I'll go watch Tillman play. I'll go watch Snead or Shad, however you pronounce his last name.
Chad.
The guy from New Orleans. Yeah. Chad, yeah. And just to see how they did against him. So he's always a guy I've liked. 2 great years. Very versatile. He spends a lot of time in that 5 technique, like on the edge, on the outside, but he also can win in the inside. So I feel like he's a great player, great motor, and he's a great pass rusher too.
I like the guy.
30 QB hurries in the last 5 weeks. PFF of 90. That's pretty darn good. 30 hurry. 30.
Where do you
QB
find these stats?
I'm all over. Listen, you're dealing with 2 Hammer Time guys on this show and Boogie Roberts. This is Pittsburgh country. We're strutting our stuff.
Y'all see my show. My show's put together, and I don't know where you're finding these stats. That's crazy.
Yeah, but 30 pressures that he had in the last 5 weeks. That's crazy. 32 tackles, 4 sacks. And this was the guy, 6'3", 270. What a frame. Indiana University, Pennsylvania, PSAC player, Division II. Gotta love it.
That is IUP.
IUP.
Thank you. Webb said no earlier.
Well, you're talking about Indiana, Purdue, IUPUI or whatever.
Yeah.
I thought
I'm talking about IUP.
All right. My bad. I thought you said PI.
That's where Nazir Streeter went. That's one of my boys, man. Come on.
Tillman was fantastic for the Stallions. One of the best defensive tackles. One of the reasons why their defense was able to get better as the season went on. He was always in the backfield. Like Boog said, he's versatile. He was all over the place. And he's done it for 2 years, man. I think he had a better year this year and got some recognition. And I think 26 is about right. I don't know where I had him on, but I think like I said, defensive tackle is such a deep position. I think that was one of our biggest arguments when we were doing the all USFL teams for the network.
Oh, it was definitely the defensive.
Yeah, it was the most intense because, like, how do you judge them? Because they all have different responsibilities, and you can't just look at numbers. You just can't.
Yeah, think about it. We had so the way that we did all USFL was we went in order. We said, okay, this person gets to pick this position, then the next person picks the next position, and this and this. And then we said you can each person gets one contest one challenge where they say, I think this person got this one position wrong. And defensive tackle was one of the positions that a lot of people wanted to challenge. And it was because we had Keontae Shad. So, I mean, that's how deep it was that we ended up kicking Keontae Shad off of our first team all USFL because I think it was to put Toby in because there's just such good defensive tackles. It's a very deep position.
It was for Boogie. Toby was unanimous.
Are you sure?
Boogie replaced Shad because it became me against Lowe, back and forth. I'm telling you.
I know. I was just saying it because he's on the show, man. Don't let me look bad in front of Boogie, dog.
I'm honest with my man, Boogie.
I'm all for honesty, and it's crazy me being in this field. I'm gonna be having to comment on players and talk about players that I'm going against, and I could be reporting on the player one week and have to play him the next week, but also
that's so cool.
Have to be able to have some self, be able to just have people talk about me as well. You get what I'm saying? So I don't mind.
Maybe you'll get a chance to do that tonight. Who knows? I don't know. But for Dondre Tillman, I like the guy to be able to get over 30 tackles from the defensive tackle position, from being able to move outside, move inside. There's a lot of difference in those positions. A lot of guys will pick one and stick with it. To be able to move those two positions, not only is it versatility and helping your defense give more looks to the offense. Boogie talked about earlier, watching tape. When you have to watch tape, not only on a player and see how do they play inside when they're playing defensive tackle, how are they playing 5-tech when they're moving outside? How are they doing these things? I mean, if he could have stood up and covered, this guy would have been literally the best defensive player in the league. So I think it's fantastic. Also, to be a 2-time champion, to have not even probably been in consideration for last year's USFL 50, to coming in and being number 26 on this list, it's impressive, and it speaks a lot to this man's work ethic and his talent, his athleticism. I love him right here because I don't think he was this high on my list. So I like him right here. Someone that number 25, someone who I think people I know that Lowe is going to say this person needs to be higher, but a lot of people will probably say they need to be higher on the list. Coming in number 25, New Orleans Breakers, Johnny Dixon. I absolutely love the photo I found that I was able to put on this graphic. I think it's really cool. Johnny Dixon is a fun player to watch. Ohio State guy. He has a big following. He's an electric player. To be able to do this when he was talking about retiring after last season, and then he comes in and plays another season and is number 25 on the USFL 50, to be that athletically talented and come in when you're thinking about hanging it up and not playing anymore because you don't know if your body can do it, and then being that good, going in on an offense that has Wes Hills, that has Jay Adams, and go in and be that electric and that dominant. And also not playing a couple of games in the beginning of the season and still looking so good that you get number 25 on this list. I love him. I keep going to Boogie, but this time I want to finish with Boogie. Let's start with Webb. Webb, what do you think?
33 catches, 462 for yards, 5 touchdowns. When he was going good, so were the Breakers. When he kind of had games off or he wasn't producing as much, the Breakers were struggling on offense. Definitely the ignition for this offense. Every time he had a good week, the MBT looked solid. So I think he's probably a little too high for me, but that's because I love defense. So that's 33 catches. He's not top of the league, but you know what I mean?
Get 462 yards off that, though.
I don't remember where I had him, but I think I had him about 40s probably. So
I'm going to look while my man Alex gives me his rundown.
Yeah, not much to add to what Webb said. I just saw a stat where he had 58 targets and only 2 drops. That's solid. 3rd overall in the league in receiving. And he had 5 TDs on the season. But again, the big takeaway for me was 58 times he had the ball thrown at him. He either caught it, or they missed him, and he only dropped 2 catchable balls. That's pretty solid.
That's fantastic. Boogie, what do you think?
He was very reliable, when he was playing. To put up those type of numbers and miss a few games, to me, that's just a testament of how good of an athlete and how good of a receiver he is. Because what if he did play all 10 games? What would those numbers be? So maybe a couple people that were voting on the list had that thought process for him to have those numbers and miss a couple games because of injuries. He was the guy, their deep threat that would take the top off of the defense. And I feel like when he wasn't playing, they kind of missed that threat, and it was allowing the defense to key in on their other receivers. So if I had to try, he's one of the top 5 receivers in the league. I'll put him. Where was he at right now? 20.
Whoa.
25.
25.
He's right in the middle.
He's 20. The dead center of the USFL 50.
Yeah, 25. So I would have had him maybe in the 30 range. 30 range, that's where I would have him because he didn't play all the games and didn't have the biggest impact on his team. So that's kind of where I would have him. But at 25, I'm not running around the block going crazy. Like, why is he this high?
There's 6 receivers in front of him, so that are left on this list, which is crazy to me. 1 out of 4 is going to be a receiver going forward. So,
okay. Well,
wow. Dang, I didn't realize that. I had him at number 27. I believe I put Jay Adams just a little bit behind him because Jay, while he is a fantastic talent, while he has ridiculous body control and ball skills, his route running still has a little bit to be desired. Probably one of the big things keeping him out of the NFL. And he does not produce the same as he does when Johnny Dixon is in the game as when he is not in the game. If Johnny Dixon's in the game, both of them feast because then they have to be doing we're going to have one defensive back on each person. Once you take one out of the equation, then they're getting doubled up. They're covering over the top with a safety, things like that. Jay Adams was not able to produce the same if Johnny Dixon was not in, which is something that was a knock on Jay, but also kind of a plus for Johnny and why he moved up on the list for me and was at 27. So I like him here. Honestly, I put him at 27. I think he's a little high by 2 spots, but I don't think it's too bad. I like the guy here, especially at his age when he's thinking about retiring and going home and watching games on TV. It's amazing. Good for him. But a guy that we hope isn't retiring anytime soon is coming in at number 24 on our list, John Atkins, which I love this photo that I found of him. It was really hard, actually. This is one of the harder photos. I had to go through and just look at Memphis Showboat's photos and find one of him where he wasn't actually tagged. But Big John Atkins, man, everybody knows the stat that I want to talk about is the fact that he was number 3 in the league in pass deflections, which is ridiculous because the first 2 guys are a corner and a safety, and then you have a defensive tackle in John Atkins. And I want to say he got at least 5 of the pass deflections against Kenji Bahar the week that the Memphis Showboats beat us in our rematch. But, the dude's crazy. It's defensive tackle. Boogie, what do you think of your brother in arms over there in Memphis?
I love Big John. I would jump on a limb and say he had probably the most dominant performance, single game performance by any defensive lineman.
Agreed.
This season. Some of the other games, he might have went under the radar, but that's because that's the position we play. You're not going to have a dominant game stat-wise every game. But for him to have, it was 5 PBUs, I believe, a sack or 2 sacks, 7 tackles. That was the most dominant performance by any defensive lineman across the board this season. And he's an amazing player, guy I look up to. After that game, I congratulated him. And then I think we were playing the Gamblers. I called him on the phone. We share tips with each other and just to see what beat he was getting to put his hands up like that, because I'm not a bat the ball down type of guy. He was like, I'm not either. It's just I was sticking my hand up there when I was tired but he's amazing. Very powerful. You can't move him. Takes 2 to 3 guys to block him. He takes up a lot of space. He's exactly what the Showboats need for their defense. So I'm a defensive lineman guy. I would say he should be higher because I just know our job is super, super tough. And if you don't know football, you don't understand how important it is to be a dominant defensive lineman when the offense can put 2 and 3 guys on you. So shout out to Big John. Kudos to my guy, man.
No, he also has one of the best smiles in the league.
Yeah.
In case y'all haven't checked it out.
Smiles and he got style. I love when my big guys can dress,
Hell yeah.
Shout out to
my teeth used to look like that before braces, just so you know. So I appreciate it. Yes.
29
you were saying.
29 tackles, 2 sacks. He was key for that Showboats defense.
2.5 sacks. How dare you, sir?
2.5 sacks. I'm sorry. I got a habit of knocking off some stats sometimes. He was just awesome. He's ranked 3rd for defensive tackles in the league in our list, which is crazy because you talk about the All USFL when we came up with the All USFL team. He wasn't even nominated for defensive tackle for the first team.
That's crazy.
Then we come to the vote, and he's 3 when you could have had 4. He wasn't even ranked in our top 4. So the power of the people really came through with Big John voting there. So 24, I think I had him about 19. So 19, 20. So
yeah, that player of the week really, put him on the map. A lot of people, maybe didn't know him. They know myself. They know Toby, but he might have been under the radar. But I think he was the only one to actually win a player of the week. So if you get one of those, your notoriety is going to jump up.
That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, to get 5 pass breakups, have that dominative game, it absolutely put him on the map. He was second team All USFL for United Football Media. For our network, we did a first and second team because we like to have a second team. So he made second team.
I had him at 37 overall, and that might have been a little bit low. Production this year, very similar to last year. and I wonder too, like we had talked about on one of our shows, Webb, about like the USFL building their own faces that go with teams. Like we hear Boogie's the mayor of the USFL, right? You think of the Maulers, you think of Boogie.
That is his fantasy team.
You look at a guy like John Atkins, and all of these guys, actually, that was another thing that stood out to me. Everybody in this 28 through 22, they're all second-year players. So we're developing our own stars in the league. John Atkins at 31, is he a guy that, obviously you hope he gets a shot at the NFL, but could he be one of those types of guys that where he is in his career, he becomes the face of the showboats? He's a guy that resigns and continues with that franchise, start to build around him.
I agree. I like the thought of that. When it was getting deeper into the weeds of the NFL signings, we had Frank and Chiavettizino. Both had not been signed yet. Obviously, both got signed and they got to play in preseason games. But Webb specifically was like, these may be guys that at this point, they are going to be USFL all-stars. This is what they are. They're the face of their team. They're guys that are going to go into the Hall of Fame once we start having a Hall of Fame for the USFL. And at some point, I think that that's really cool because you're kind of paving your own way. Mm-hmm. When you talk about the fact that we'll probably be 5-6 years down the road and Pittsburgh Mauler fans are still talking about Boogie Roberts, the fact that you get to pave your way and do that in a league and a team that is just starting, yeah, I think that's really cool. I know it's not as shiny and glamorous and there's not as much money as the NFL, but I think that all is really cool. And if John Atkins can become, the face of the Memphis Showboats, Memphis is an incredibly good fan base. They are loyal. They're crazy. I was there game 1. They packed that stadium on the side that they had open. That's a really cool thing to do. So, hopefully, because at 31, yeah, it's incredibly hard to get back into the NFL. Ooh, but coming up, we have number 23. This is a guy, I think he should have been a little bit lower. He wasn't as impressive as some of the other people on the list. I'm just kidding. He's amazing. He should have been number 1. Coming in at number 23, we have Mr. Boogie Roberts. Woo! Let's see. Boogie, what do you think of this guy? What do you think of this pick? Should he be higher? Should he be lower? How is he on this list?
Man, the last time I was watching this show, about 9-10 months ago, he wasn't even on the list. So Jesus Christ, he went and put his campaign out and took it personal with a chip on his shoulder. And he said that he was going to do something and improve and things, and he did it. Kudos to that guy right there. Had an amazing year for his defense. I like to judge D linemen by how they do individually and also the guy behind them. And both of my linebackers behind me had an amazing year. Should have been a defensive player of the year into Zeno. But, yeah, I'll let you guys do this and I'll finish it up. Talk about this guy coming in at number 23.
Next guy,
too high, too low. Yeah.
The next guy you should be able to talk about pretty well, so I'm excited about that one. But I love that it was like Ash Ketchum when he's about to throw his first Pokemon for a battle, which may be a weird reference for everybody, but some people will get it. But Alex, as soon as I started talking about, he knew who was next. He was like, "Let's go with the Mauler's hat." He was like, "We're doing it."
That's right.
It was great. I absolutely loved that move. That was good.
Can you bring that graphic back up real quick? Was that from his dance after the touchdown or after the fumble?
Which one are you talking about?
No, it's not. Boogie knows what I'm talking about. When he was
no, that's after the sack in the last game against the Generals.
Okay.
Are you talking about the one on the bottom left?
He started some things where they need to change the rating on the TV, man.
Are you talking about one of the
my kids were watching
the black and white things on the
yeah, my mom was like, "What was that? Did you forget where you were at?" I totally blacked out and lost it. I didn't know where I was at. I thought I was in a club in Northeast Ohio or something.
But the big picture of him there, it was him during the national anthem at a game. I believe it was in Ford Field. I believe there's not enough full body pictures of you not full on sprinting, Boog. So
okay,
I did what I could, and I think you look good. You look stoic. You look ready. You look like a number 23 on the USFL top 50. Patriotic. This man was not on the list last year. He tells us going into this season, he tells Webb on Hammer Time, I'm going to be on the USFL 50 list. he comes in. Not only does everybody absolutely love him for his personality, for his leadership, for giving sideline interviews when he's literally in the game, but you come out and you're dominant. You're great. You help lead a team to the championship. And as the Gamblers guy here, I'm going to let the two Hammer Time gentlemen take it away.
Well, I'm gonna go first.
Okay.
Boogie said it really. When Tizzino puts up those numbers, his numbers improved. It's because the defensive tackles in that defense were creating lanes for Tizzino to get the tackles. Let's be honest. And Boogie doesn't get a stat for that unless you watch PFF or whatever. Olive doesn't get a stat for that. It's more than just numbers with this. I know a lot of people argued with Shad. Shad's not even on the top 50.
Which is crazy.
He had 6.5 sacks. It's great to get sacks. Boogie can tell you he loves probably getting sacks. But it's doing more than just getting to the quarterback for the defensive lineman, especially a tackle. And Boogie's my guy. He's the leader on this defense. He's the leader on the team. He's the mayor, right? One of the top in pressures. He kept telling me the stat because I was like, how'd you feel about the game? He kept telling me he's doing well and getting to the quarterback or quarterback pressures, and we don't get those stats. I just think Boogie is awesome, should be on this list. It should have been on the list probably last year. I had him at 12, Boog. I had you at 12. I know I remembered where I put the Maulers, and I can't say anything more, and hopefully maybe year 3, but we'll leave that for another show.
Act 3.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I had Boogie higher than 23 too. Obviously to piggyback off of what Webb said, I mean, sort of like we talked about on one of our other shows, sort of the heart of the defense, the heart of the team. And, as we talk to some of your teammates on Hammer Time, it's evident that there's a special culture that's being built with you guys. From the coaches, the players, everyone there. And you're certainly a huge part of that. And I think the turnaround this season can, be directly pointed to you and others in that locker room. Really a special year. When you look at some of the numbers that stood out to me, if you look at all the defensive linemen in the league, you're third of all defensive linemen in total run stops and QB pressures. That's solid. PFF grade of +70 for both rushing the passer and run defense. So again, a solid performance. But as Webb touched on, as you touched on, it's the intangibles of doing your job, right? Keeping guys off the linebackers so they can go and make plays and run up stats. It's complementary football. We talk about it a lot on our show. But I sure as hell am glad you're one of us because you're fun to watch, great guy, and higher than 23 in my book. But yeah, that's my take.
I'm going to be totally honest. I had him at 23. I had him at exactly 23. That's crazy. I did not know that.
Yeah.
But
Good.
But real quick, a fanboy moment. When we first started getting into the USFL, we were trying to cover it. We hadn't really interviewed players on the teams yet as much. We were coming off of interviewing players who we knew were in the draft pool. I don't think a single one of them ended up getting drafted, sadly enough. And then we get into the season and I'm sitting there watching United by Football. And one of my favorite lines that was in the entire show was when Boogie was talking to the water girl and talked to the water girl. And he said, "Oh, my name's Boogie." And she said, "Oh, that was my nickname growing up." And he said, "Okay." He goes, "You know what? I'll be Big Boog. You be Lil Boog." And I watched that and I was like, wow, I want to know this guy. Like, I was sitting there thinking if I was ever on a show like this, if I was ever being videotaped, like I hope I could act like that guy and show the humility and be as nice to the people who are there just to help and provide for me.
Right.
So Boogie, to get to talk to you, to get to meet you, to get to have you on our shows, it's kind of like meeting an actor, a big superstar for me. So thank you for coming on. He is an actor. He is an actor. But I'm saying like Hugh Jackman's, right? Like I'm saying like this is like meeting. The first time I was just shell shocked, starstruck. So thank you for coming on, and I'm so happy you made the list this year, man.
Appreciate you guys, all your kind words, and this is a family. We're all growing this league together, and I always tell Webb how appreciative I am of him for him to do this in his spare time and not getting paid and have his own family. wife, kids, coach a basketball team. It's crazy and how dedicated he is to have a weekly show. And now he's added a new co-host, and I look forward to actually getting to meet him and speaking with him and things like that. And you already know how I feel about you as well. So it's just, we're in this thing together. We're growing this league together. And you talked about myself 5 and 6 years down the line about Maulers fans. They're going to be speaking about you guys, and they should be speaking about you guys, because you guys are the real people that push this game forward during the offseason, in season, come in the game. So sometimes you guys just need to sit back and just know that we really appreciate you guys. I know I do, because I know you don't have to do this. And I'm very appreciative, and I'm thankful, and I'm happy to be on the list. I could sit here and say I should be X, Y, and Z, but I'm not going to do that right now. I'm not going to do it at all, because I'm just appreciative, and I'll just use it as another chip on my shoulder to terrorize the gamblers some more if I'm back there in Pittsburgh, So I'm just thankful to be, to be on the list, and guys think that highly of me.
You're gonna make me cry. Talk about Webb's basketball team. Grizz on, brother. I make some posters for them. I do graphics, and Webb is like, "Hey, I got this girls tournament coming up. Can you make a poster?" I'm like, "Yes." Love that you brought up the basketball. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
I just know I learned about Cleveland football.
Oh yeah.
While Boogie was like that Cleveland show.
That was so cool.
It was so cool.
He got to go up there, and then suddenly they're like, "Come on our show," and he was like the best part of the show.
Great.
And if he wasn't on it, it was cool, but it wasn't as good.
Yep.
I mean, I did stop watching when Boogie wasn't on, but
thank you, Kate.
I did learn about Cleveland Browns football for a period of time.
Browns fans are crazy.
Yeah,
they go hard.
That unlocked a whole new world for me. I knew I kind of wanted to get into that, but you never know how good you are at something until you try. People are like,
"Oh, you were so good.
You'll be good in front of the camera. You'll be good." And for me to go and get positive reviews all the time, I will get stopped in Cleveland. Like, "I seen you on a sports show." Ultimate fans will come with signs, and I'm just like, wow. And for Jay Crawford, he worked at ESPN for 20 years, and for him to tell me, like, "Man, you're special. Like, you have a gift at this," like, that just showed me that I could do it.
You can.
But none of it will be possible without the USFL. So that's why, no matter what, I'm always forever indebted to them and thankful to them. And I always have nothing but positive words to say about the USFL.
What the hell is McNuggets? That was the first time.
Yeah, the McNuggets.
I'll never forget that.
Yeah.
Why did
I remember
they call you?
my first day there, I got in trouble because I used curse words. And they said you could curse words, but there were certain ones that you couldn't say. They were like, "Yeah, you can bleep it out a couple times, but we love you. Come back."
Why do they call you McNuggets?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, I hate to stop the Boogie Love train, but we have one more person that we got to talk about today.
And of course, it's got to be this team.
And it's the team that, we don't have somebody to cover, but
because no one's there.
Nobody wants to cover him. But I'm glad that we have somebody who knows this person who was there. And also, this is another picture that I really liked that I found when I was doing these graphics. Chris Orr, fantastic linebacker in the league. I loved all of the pictures I put on this. This is one of the favorite ones that I made of the USFL 50. The dude is an absolute monster. Webb, what do you think?
What's that, Bug?
No, I said he's a beast, man. He's a beast.
Absolute beast.
Yeah. You can go
80,
first.
81 tackles.
Say about him, yeah.
81 tackles in 9 games. On a team that was on the field a lot. The defense was on the field a lot, but he still produced. He was banged up. You said he missed a couple games.
I swear he missed at least 2 games.
He was banged up a couple games where he left early, so it didn't feel like he played the full 10 games, but he still put up solid stats. I think he's properly rated. I didn't watch the general games because they were kind of whatever to watch, and they weren't playing the Maulers. So, but I think he is properly placed there. I just think he was on a team that he's behind Ginda and Tizino, in my opinion. And I think he is number 3 or number 4 linebacker. I'll look at it when the next person's talking, but I think he's properly placed. Go ahead.
I agree.
I had him at 21, so pretty close. I had him at 21, solid PFF grade. To Boogie's point, he's a beast, violent, just a game-changing type of player. Very tough on the inside. I know the rub with him a little bit in the NFL has been his size and somewhat around athletic ability, like the ability to defend in space and those types of things, or play in space rather. But I had him right at 21, and I think 22's solid place for him.
I also had him at 21. I think Chris Orr was one of the most NFL looking linebackers in the league. Like you said, they knocked him for his play in space, his size. The guy, when you look at what is the word? His instinct. When you look at the way he plays the game, when you look at the physicality, I think that he is the closest to an NFL linebacker that we had in the league. And 81 tackles. He had the same amount of sacks as John Atkins, who, was a beast over there in Memphis. This guy is great. I loved Chris Orr. I loved the way he played. And yes, I'm biased. I want to say that the third linebacker is Kalen Tolson. But yeah, he's probably the third linebacker behind Frank Gore and Kiavit Zino. I want to say that it's Chris Orr. He might even give them a run for his money. This guy really played.
Yeah.
Well, I love Tolson. So.
I was going to say Webb's raising his hand.
I love
we're
Kalen
good.
Tolson.
We're good.
He's over there.
We're good. I had Tolson in the top 10, so whatever.
Oh,
Kalen Tolson's a beast. Boogie,
All right, Boog.
you shared a place with him.
yeah, man. He's one of those guys that you just throw your hands up in the air and wonder why he hasn't got an opportunity. Because 2 years of great film, you're like, what else can he do? Yeah. He's a beast, and I just feel for him, because he's a great guy. But just on the field, just that dominant force, he's a vocal leader. Me and him had that viral tweet, of him saying they're the best defense in the league. He really rallies his guys and makes them believe that. And I remember I'm like, I'm going to go save this. I'm going to bookmark this because when we play him, I'm going to show him. He's one of those guys, those competitors that you just love competing against. He's a sideline-to-sideline linebacker, a very violent hitter. When he hits you, you feel it, you hear it. And I just don't understand why he hasn't got his chance. I would have him a little higher, but he did get injured. He missed a game, and then I remember against you guys, I was there. He was out the whole second half with the elbow, so I feel like we put a healthy campaign together. I could see him being top 15. That's how highly I think of him, and well-spoken, playing middle linebacker in that defense. And to have a great year, and I think people don't realize that they had two different defensive coordinators. This is a whole different defense this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is a whole different defense this year. So for him to still put up those numbers and be the leader for a new defense in the second year, you can't say enough great things about Chris. And if it was up to me, he'd be a little higher, but he's amazing.
Well, the Generals re-signed him for 2024.
All these re-signings, the Gamblers didn't re-sign a single person.
They already locked him up. Hey, one other thing too on that list, and again, I know I touched on it earlier, but it really stood out to me when we were doing some homework. Every one of these players, second year in the league, 28 through 22. We're building our own.
Oh, you're right.
Every one of them.
That's so cool. I love that. I didn't even realize that. Looking at the list earlier, that every single one of these is a second-year player.
Second-year guy. Yep.
Yeah, I'm coming for top 10. So, and I already know my spots where I missed my plays. So I already know what. So I'm all good.
Wait, do we have breaking news? Do we have breaking
Boog,
news?
you have not re-signed.
I'm just speaking if
Boog, you have not re-signed. Like this is, that would be a big thing.
I know.
No.
We're working out some stuff, but just know that if I were to resign, it wouldn't be with any other team besides my Maulers. There's no way I would actually.
I would actually
stay in the league and go somewhere else after everything that I've built over there in Pittsburgh. The grass isn't always greener.
The house that Boogie built.
I care less about the Stallions. Shout out to those guys and all the guys they're getting out, but if I do it and I want to reach the pinnacle, it'll be with the guys I started with. I'm not going to jump.
The house that Boogie built. I'm jealous of you guys,
good,
man.
Bug.
So jealous. Oh, our players jump ship. It's all good.
My other takeaway too, that's great to hear. My other takeaway, though, is if we're looking at 28 through 22, and I still haven't seen Chris Blewett's name pop, he must be
You
in
and
the
Chris
top 20 or
Blewett.
top 10 because I still haven't seen him.
Where's
So I
my
can't wait
list?
to
Well, you
see
know-
where he is.
Well, you know, I didn't vote for him. I love the guy, but I did not vote for him.
I swear I have him on my list.
Top 10, look all the way
I
near the
just
top.
don't get
I'm
it.
excited.
Not all the way to the top.
I just don't get
Excited
it.
to see the rest of these players on this list and where they rank.
Yeah.
They're gonna get crazy. There's more Maulers. I'll tell you that.
Yep.
There's
How
more
more?
Maulers.
1, 2. There's more than 2
Oh,
left.
yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Uh,
on my list.
4
If-
left.
There's okay. Now I might be a little heartbroken. Now there's
Now he's pissed.
yeah.
Oh,
I
There's
know- I know
four
two-
more
I know-
Maulers. There's
know
four
he's
more Maulers.
upset.
I-
Now he's
I know
up.
2
Sorry,
for
guys.
sure are. Well, okay, never mind. Well, yeah, okay, I can see it. Because
Two.
yeah, you're right. You're right. I can see it.
Okay, 2, 100%. You know.
Yeah, I know the third. I know the third one
Three.
now. Looking back at the list, and
Yeah,
all
there's 4.
USFL and
There's
all,
4.
and yeah,
There's 4 more, and I mean, like, I think you'll be like, yeah, I get it.
yeah, because
Yeah.
we haven't seen the commissioner.
Yeah.
We and then obviously Tez and Gilbert, and then that's 3. Ooh, so it's either out of Tarp and Ruben that I would say that.
Tarp was
Tarp.
29.
You were lower than
Oh,
Tarp.
Oh,
Tarp
Tarp
was
already went.
29.
Oh, okay,
was
so then
29.
okay, then there's my
Wow,
4
you
right there.
called it. That's ridiculous.
Wow.
Yeah, those are my 4. The commissioner, Gilbert Island, Tizino,
Gilbert Island.
Foster. Yeah, that's what I call him because it's an island over there, and a lot of people get lost.
Joe Walker's still in his
Yeah,
pocket.
his stuff's still there.
Joe Walker.
Called it.
But yeah, those are my 4, and those are my guys, and I'm excited to see where they rank because they deserve it. Shout out
crazy.
to the D block and the commissioner, the only person that offensive player that is in our defensive group chat, by the way.
Oh, that's really cool. No way. Anything is possible, brother.
Anything.
Dang. Okay, that's man, Boog, you pay attention. That was ridiculous. He was like, "Oh, it's this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy." And
He
yeah.
totally had it.
Oh my gosh. That was ridiculous. Okay. That was super cool. Well, I think we have come to an end. We have done all 7 players. These are coming up this week. Everybody who has not been watching is going to see it on Twitter and Instagram. We're going to post them out. This was a fun one. I absolutely loved that we had the most generals on this episode. We don't have anybody who covers the generals. We haven't watched as many generals games as we all should have, but Boogie is on. He shared the hub with them. He knows these guys personally. And we got some fantastic insight on these players that we would not have had otherwise. So Boogie, thank you so much for coming on this
Thanks,
episode.
bud.
I'm so glad we got you on this episode, especially the one where we got to announce that you were on the USFL 50 this year. I love it. Guys, this was a really good episode. I love this episode.
Yeah,
This was
like
a
I
good
said,
night.
this is family. This is not coming on the show. It's like going over to your cousin's house.
I'm gonna say what's up.
Stay up late, play video games, as opposed to when you're at home. So this is family. If I'm available, I'm here. Whatever you guys need me, Webb knows I'm a DM or text away. So whatever I can do.
And still a Lakers fan.
I just really want to thank Boogie for all of his support of everything we do. It's super special. I truly personally appreciate it, and we got you.
Go Maulers.
Go Maulers. Yeah, I'm a Boogie fan for life, man.
Yeah, Boogie fan for life.
I gotta get me a Boogie
Hammer down.
shirt.
Yeah.
Hey, Ace and KB, thank you for the invite. This was fun. Thanks for having me on.
Of course.
Anytime.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Anytime.
Appreciate it.
All right.
All right, guys.
This has been USFLA 28 through 22 on the USFL 50. We will see you next time. Alex, throw it up. Throw up the
Peace
deuces.
out.
Throw up the deuces.